A to the K.
to the K.
To the K. Hello, welcome to the A to the K Wrestling Show. We are joined today by the one and only Jay Harvey, representing Europe's biggest wrestling convention, For the Love of Wrestling, which takes place on the 23rd and 24th of April, 2022, right here in Liverpool, UK. Jay, welcome to the show.
Hi guys, thank you very much for having me.
No, thanks for being here.
So obviously, as you know from back and forth with Carl more than most, we're obviously super excited about For the Love of Wrestling. Can't wait to go. But first question, I suppose, out of the gate would be sort of what it's been like for you. Obviously, with organising an event is a massive thing to do anyway. But with the difficulties we've had over the pandemic over the last 2 years, we just sort of ask out how some of that's come about, or how the challenges have been for that, really trying to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a ball. Like, it's probably the most polite way to do it. I mean, no, For Love of Wrestling was a long time coming. You know, I've been a wrestling fan for 30 odd years, and I've never seen anything like this. And even when it came around back in sort of 2008, late 2018, I was still very dubious of this, and I wasn't involved at the time. And then that's when I sort of came on board. And I think people in this country and all over Europe, because it has grown into a European convention now, we've been crying out for an event like For Love of Wrestling, and obviously for the first one to go so well, and to have such a stellar lineup, and obviously the Undertaker's first appearance and all of those sort of amazing things, it just couldn't have got off to a better start, and it really did sort of plant its flag in the ground, which was amazing. And we were all so excited to then follow it up in 2020 with a, if not as good, even better show. But obviously the last 2 years have been an absolute nightmare. For Love of Wrestling, I mean, obviously Monopoly Events has sort of got 10 or 12 different conventions all around Europe now, as well as other events. But I mean, you know, For Love of Wrestling, I thought it's probably been the hardest hit, and I'm sure I'm a little bit biased because, you know, I always see For Love of Wrestling is probably my favourite one. But you know, it was the first big convention in the UK that was sort of cancelled. Monopoly, certainly Monopoly's one, because we got Liverpool Comic Con out of the way in February. It was February or March, and then it was after that. Obviously, For Love of Wrestling was due to take place, so it was the first one hit, and obviously then it got pushed back. It got hit again. It got hit last year. So it's been this particular one's been 2 years coming, and we're still not out of the woods as far as COVID's concerned. I mean, we're in a lot brighter place over here in the UK, but America is still pretty much in the eye of the storm. Some places a lot worse than others. So it's an absolute nightmare still, just trying to get certain people to commit to come over. But we're making our way through it. We've got a really, really good show planned. Most of the structure is now in place. So we've a few more twists and turns here and there, but we're really starting to look forward to it now.
Yeah, so are we, definitely. Obviously, you mentioned on the Facebook Live on Sunday just gone that, you know, you give us a massive update now in terms of where things are at, and, you know, unfortunately, certain people, Shawn Michaels, Jeff Hardy, now unable to make the event, but you've announced, you know, at least 2 other headline replacements in the likes of Bray Wyatt and Sting. How's the reaction been to obviously the new announcements?
Yeah, I mean, you know, let's speak openly and honestly. I mean, losing particularly Jeff Hardy. I know Shawn Michaels has been over a few times, sort of in the, you know, over the years. But Jeff Hardy's never really had that sort of standalone convention appearance. So yeah, it was a bit of a gut punch, losing Jeff Hardy the way we did. But to be able to replace him, not only with Bray Wyatt, obviously now we'll be able to do the Wyatt family reunion because we already had Braun and we've added Eric Rowan as well to line up. But obviously the icon Sting's always been a dream guest for us. So we did lose Jeff Hardy, but we have got Sting, who's been a dream guest for us, and the New Age Outlaws as well. But in the same week, we were also able to, you know, reconfirm Alundra Blaze, who's someone we've always wanted on the show, and of course, being able to confirm this week MJF as well, who's probably the, you know, if not one of, if not the hottest talent on the planet right now.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I can't wait to be abused by him in some way, shape, or form.
Exactly, it's crazy.
That's what people are loud enough for, isn't it? But
he is, and we have been warned, by the way, because we get MJF through the same agent. We get a lot of our guests from different events off, and he has warned us that when you invite MJF, you get MJF, and he will be MJF for the weekend. So I'm sure he's going to upset quite a few people, which is going to be fantastic.
Honestly, I admire the man's ability to stay in character. Like, exactly. All the time. It's like you see it with like the likes of the Undertaker and that, but the character of MJF, it must be so difficult to be that guy all the time.
I mean, if you think it was hard to protect the gimmick in 1990 when the Undertaker came out, you can only imagine what it's like in 2022, and he's somehow achieving it, and the lines are still very much blurred, and I think the man's a bit of a genius.
No, I totally agree with that.
One of our favorites.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously you mentioned the first convention back in 2018. You mentioned some of the big names you had then, and obviously this year, I mean, a lot's changed since then, to be fair. So we've had obviously AEW has come up, and they're now a massive company, a massive competitor to WWE. We're seeing great things from various different promotions. So like from a guest point of view, and from like looking at this year, it's a more sort of well-rounded event in the sense of wrestling as a whole. So I just wondered sort of personally how you find the sort of guest lists, sort of how would you rate it compared to the previous events? I know obviously we have massive names like of Undertaker, but
yeah, do you know what I think what this year is? I think the average is higher. If I'm completely honest, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and name names because I think that wouldn't be, that
no, of course,
professional or rude. But I think there was some people who perhaps didn't do a lot over the weekend at the first one, and I think just the average in general for this one, I really don't think there's any sort of weak links at this event. I mean, obviously the Undertaker's first ever European convention appearance. I mean, of course it's going to be very hard to follow that.
Yeah.
But I mean, you just look at some of the names on the list. I mean, the New Age Outlaws is going to be a lot of fun. I mean, Trish Stratus, my God, but not just Trish Stratus, Mickie James, and Tori Wilson and Candice Michelle and Victoria. I mean, these are some of the biggest names, in the sort of female wrestling industry over the last 20 years. JBL, I'm looking forward to. Adam Scherz, known as Braun Strowman, I'm looking to as well. But also Money Inc. I was talking to Mike Rotunda a little bit earlier today, and he's really, really looking forward to it. So yeah, I think the average overall is up. I think for me the personal highlights. Well, actually, I can't. We may be announcing one over the course of the next week, which I think will be a big name for a lot of people. I mean, it's not Austin, it's not Hogan or someone like that, one of those guys, but it's someone who's been on our wish list for a while. But yeah, for me, I'm an old school fan, but I do watch today's product probably. I love the WWE pay-per-views. I still think there's no better organisation on the planet for a pay-per-view than WWE. But as a weekly programme, I sort of tend to stick with AEW. I just think it's a bit more palatable. 2 hours a week. That sort of does me. I think WWE is quite hard to keep up with when it's sort of 7 hours of programming. Very much a lot of it's quite samey. So MJF's going to be a big highlight for this year. And I think some of the guys I mentioned, Kurt Angle, he's probably someone who needs shouting out as well.
Absolutely.
Kurt Angle is an all-time great for me. I think Kurt Angle could headline any wrestling convention. So yeah, really looking forward to Kurt Angle as well. All of them just generally it's going to be a really good weekend.
Well, I think it's been great to see that it has been like a mix of you've got as you mentioned MJF, one of the sort of hottest sort of stars on the wrestling scene at the moment, and then you've got absolute legends like you say, like the Mike Rotunda, the likes of the New Age Outlaws and stuff. There's a bit of something for everyone. If you're an old school fan, or if you're into the current product, there's just a bit there for everyone. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Rotunda wrestled at WrestleMania 1, didn't he, as part of the US Express? So he's proper old school.
Oh yeah.
And obviously having his son Wyndham as well. So
I was going to say that. Have you thought about doing any kind of father and son photo ops in there?
You know what? If the appetite's there, I mean, we sort of don't. One of the great things about this event, and it's probably got an example about how I got involved. I mean, like Andy's, it's obviously Andy's the boss, but he's very, very open to ideas. If fans want something, it happens, and that's what we're going to try and tailor our prop builds to that as well. I mean, we've got some prop build announcements to come up. I mean, we've got the Wyatt family reunion, so it would be it would be a miss of us if we didn't try and do something around that, whether that be something to do with the Wyatt family or perhaps the Firefly Funhouse, something like that. We were having that conversation. So it's all still to be decided, but yeah, we're going to try and have some fun with it as well. And that's we want the prop builds to be fun for people, not only for it to engage with it as well. Yeah, and that's what we're looking for from this year. A lot of fun, because we think people need it. We think after the last 2 years, people need a really, really good, fun wrestling convention, including obviously the other things that we do over the weekend as well. So obviously we've got the free Futureshock wrestling show.
Yeah.
Did you guys come to the first for Love of Wrestling?
No, I was going to ask you actually. Yeah, I mean, obviously the guest announcement you've got is fantastic. Not so good for our wallets, but fantastic for the day. But obviously, there's so much more to even just a general ticket. So I was going to ask you, what can we expect?
Yeah, so I mean, we mentioned the prop builds, and they're really fun to engage with. Yeah. You've obviously got the exhibits as well, so you'll see some of the biggest and most interesting wrestling collections in the world. For Love of Wrestling, you'll also see the Q&As. So for me, the Q&As are the real gem of For Love of Wrestling. So every single one of our guests over the course of the weekend will do a sort of half-an-hour Q&A. Now the Q&As all happen in the wrestling ring, which is in the middle of the floor at the event, and they're all included with your ticket. Now, and people want to talk. One of the things that we always try and stress is just how good a value for money it is. I mean, you could literally pay 20 quid for your entry ticket, come in and just sit down, grab yourself a seat and sit there in front of the Q&As all day. You would see over the course of the weekend 20 to 30 Q&As with some of the biggest names in wrestling ever. I mean, 20 quid for that is just unbelievable money. So all the Q&As we've obviously got our traders there. Obviously, the first year we did it, we obviously just had sort of general convention traders there. There was people selling Lord of the Rings stuff. There was a stall sword. This year, we've obviously tried to tailor it more to the wrestling crowd. We're a bit more for established. So the actual, what we call like the trader area or the marketplace, that will be a lot more wrestling themed this year. For me, the best thing about the event is, you're just going to have sort of 5,000 wrestling fans under one roof at any one time. And just the atmosphere. The atmosphere is electric. Everybody's on the feet, as the Gorilla Monsoon would say. But, so it's just brilliant. I mean, people do come and they make friends for life there.
That
sounds great.
That sounds like a great thing, like you say, the atmosphere. Well, sincerely hoping it's going to be as good as it sounds, and I'm sure it will be, because obviously everyone has that base, that similar interest. We're all wrestling fans, so how can it go wrong, sort of thing. So obviously you mentioned the exhibits, you mentioned some of the different stuff we got on. One thing I made up with is that you mentioned it's going to be a lot more wrestling centric, because obviously, without naming any names, to be professional, we've been to other conventions in the past that have been general conventions, not been wrestling focused, but obviously we look out for wrestling stuff, and no more often than not you get maybe you get some of the older figures, you get stuff like that, but there's not like a lot of like wrestling traders there, No. So seeing more, I mean, it's probably not going to do me any good, because I'll end up walking away with a belt of some sort. But it's fantastic to know there's going to be like a wrestling centric sort of element to the trading at the side of it as well.
Yeah, we've got people like Toys and Masks coming down, who are there, wrestling specialists, and a few other people like that coming down as well. And there'll be stalls there selling sort of food. And obviously we've got the Top Rope Brewery coming down as well. Top Rope Brewery from sort of your neck of the woods, and they are making the first ever official For Love of Wrestling beer, which I'm absolutely made up with, because that was my idea. I do like it. I don't have many good ones, but I was like, where do we make our own beer?
Do you think Camp and Fairness will mind if we all sneak them into the after party? That's the question.
Yeah, they might have the question, but that's going to be really good itself. So I'm looking forward to the For Love of Wrestling beer. And again, it's just something else for the fans. And that's what For Love of Wrestling is. It's Andy's ethos is it's by the fans for the fans, and that's exactly what it is. It's it should be your weekend, about make it not to go all soppy, but about making dreams come true, and about it should feel like your weekend. So you wrestling fans should have your own wrestling beer, in your own wrestling convention, watching your own wrestling show, sort of thing. That's exactly what it should be.
I love it. That's
I think. I mean. we're probably pretty biased as well because we've had her on the show twice, but we just can't wait to meet Georgia Smith again. Free entry, you know, as part of your ticket. Sorry, a free exhibit. Going to see Davies stuff, like that's just going to be awesome.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the sort of thing, you know, one of the great things about Love of Wrestling as opposed to other conventions is that the helm of you know, for Love of Wrestling is you've got three massive sort of wrestling fans. Obviously, Andy's a very big wrestling fan. Me and Jason are like huge wrestling fans. So when we come up with ideas and when we talk to each other and when we suggest things, whether it be guests or ideas or beer or whatever it is, or when we think about who we want to invite, you know, we're doing it as wrestling fans. And I'm sure in some ways we can be quite selfish because we invite Georgia Smith because we want to meet Georgia Smith. But then and I suppose it's lazy to a degree, but on the flip side, if I want to meet Georgia Smith and Jason wants to meet Georgia Smith, probably most wrestling fans want to meet Georgia Smith. Yeah. So it sort of works that way as well. And if I want a wrestling beer, then you guys probably want a wrestling beer as well. So it works.
Without a doubt, yeah.
Exactly.
Well, you know what? Point of curiosity now, wasn't on my planned questions, but I have to ask, have you sampled this beer yet? Is this something you've been able to try?
No, it's currently in the brewing stages. It's being canned at the end of this month. But we have had conversations around flavors. So obviously with the Love of Wrestling logo being black and strawberry, I requested that it could have sort of notes of blackberries and strawberries, which I thought it was better for a cider. But then when I suggested it, the guy came back and went, "No, that's a really good idea. That'd really work." I was like, "Yeah, of course it would. I know what I'm talking about." Awesome. But no, I like all like the beers. I used to like Brewdog, but we're not allowed to like them anymore. But those sort of things I quite like, and ale are fun ale. So yeah, it's going to be amazing. Those guys are really passionate about what they do. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do. I had one of their, was it for SummerSlam last year? I got one of their Stone Cold, a keg of their Stone Cold Creamery in. Just research purposes, obviously. Yeah, I don't remember watching the end of SummerSlam, so it must have been pretty good.
I'm looking for just that alone. I'm looking forward to it now. It's going to be ace.
Yeah.
So you mentioned, I can't repeat myself there. You mentioned the exhibits, but I'm given to believe you're a bit of a collector yourself. Any chance you'll be exhibiting anything yourself, or?
Do you know what? I sort of hummed and hawed. So I was, for anybody who was at the first Love of Wrestling, I was the guy with the big old school exhibit in the middle with all the chairs. So yeah, I've got one of the people have seen it, said they think it's it's one of the biggest in Europe, if not in the world. It's sort of just WWF branded items, but all in their original boxes. And I don't know why I did it when I first started collecting. I just decided I wanted to collect all original box stuff. And interestingly enough, I got into it through gaming. So I wanted to start. I was always been a bit of a big gamer, but more of a retro gamer. And I started buying up retro gaming consoles. Didn't really think I just wasn't really getting a big kick out of it. And then one day, strangely enough, I bought like an old Hardy Boys set, and it was the Team Extreme set with Lita and Matt and Jeff in there, like the old Jack Pacific figures. And I got a real kick out of that. And I thought, well, maybe this is what I want to do then. So I started doing that. But yeah, so I've got a pretty hefty collection. Well, how much of it I bring, I'm not sure. But I've just actually, over the course of the last couple of weeks, completed the entire WrestleMania pay-per-view chair set.
I saw that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So that's been crazy. That's been sort of about 4 or 5 years work trying to find all them, find them in brilliant, like really tip-top condition. Yeah. So that would be. So I've got 70 chairs. How many of them I bring? I don't know.
Well, if you need some extra seats for the Q&A, then we know where to go.
Yeah, that's it.
Just to put you on the spot though, what's your favorite piece?
Do you know what? I go from it changes. I like the really random stuff. Like I found some WWF Valentine cards that I just thought, and when I looked at them, I thought they can't be real, and they were. It was like Jake the Snake and the $1 Million Man, Mr. Perfect Valentine cards. I was like, these are absolutely hideous. So they're fantastic. But I would probably say my WrestleMania 10 chair, which is the first ever chair WWF ever made, so it's quite special. Obviously, WrestleMania 10 itself is a special event, and it just so happens to be signed by Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels, and Bret Hart and Luger as well. obviously, who, you know, Razor and Shawn probably put on one of the greatest WrestleMania matches ever at that particular event. So yeah, that's a really, really special item of mine. But it depends. If you ask me tomorrow, I'll give you a different answer.
I love it.
That's fair. You've mentioned your favourite. Is there a particular item that's you're still sort of after that you've not been able to get hold of yet?
Yeah, I suppose there is, but I keep buying. Do you know what? I'm totally not. I keep buying crap. I generally, if I see something like I don't know why I ended up paying like 60 quid for. Like it's a WrestleMania. Is it a WrestleMania 3 VHS set? But it's the double one. But if you open it up, it's got a flip up of Hulk Hogan's face, and it's really cheesy and really corny. But I thought I haven't got that, and I quite want it. So you know that sort of stuff I always get a kick out of. Is there anything that I want? Yeah, I think maybe there's one of the in your house events, which was sort of Bret Hart themed, and there's a chair for that I haven't managed to locate yet. Or obviously the Montreal screw job that night, that chair. So that chair is lying around, but I just wanted to finish my WrestleMania collection off first before I start going buying ones like that. I managed to pick up a King of the Ring one actually. Really weirdly, I didn't. The signatures on it aren't very good, but it's the King of the Ring, which had the Hell in the Cell, the Mankind and Undertaker match. So that's a really cool one. But then when I bought it, the guy just happened to mention, "Oh, it's signed by Owen Hart and The Rock." By the way, I was like, "Oh yeah, that's completely fine." So yeah, I mean, I do like the collecting. I've slowed down on it a little bit more. I've started to go into some sort of bigger pieces now, rather than just buying little bits here, there, and everywhere. Yeah, I'd like to have something Randy Savage or Mr. Perfect ring worn at one point. Mm-hmm. That'd probably be a real a good piece. Oh, and I picked up one thing I did pick up early this year was a number 3 seat from the Pontiac Silverdome from WrestleMania 3. I purchased that directly from Hulk Hogan, and he signed it and stuff for me. So that's
wow.
So he said you can have this one, which is number 7. He said you can have it for X amount, but he said, you can have the number 3 chair, which for like double. I was like, oh well, let's just do the big one then. Let's just. The thing was, I know full well he had me over a barrel, but the fact was, if I hadn't have gone for the number 3 one, it had niggled me. It would have niggled me, and I'd have ended up going back about 2 weeks later and buying it off him anyway. So
you did the right thing.
No, it's a unique piece, isn't it, to be fair?
It is a unique piece. So that's something I definitely want to bring down and put on display at the event.
Awesome.
Oh, wicked. Can't wait to see it. Obviously, there's been some murmurs as well when it comes to photo ops that there might be the possibility of having some, if not all of them, taking place inside a wrestling ring or different locations. Have you got any kind of updates on that?
Yeah, I think what we're sort of doing with that is we're working out the prop builds first. So I was sat minding my own business. Was it? What day was it? It was last weekend actually. I was sat watching at the football, minding my own business, and my phone went, and we were suddenly having a prop build meeting, which I was very surprised about. But so we've started now to talk a lot more about prop builds. I think what we're going to do is we sort of know the prop builds we want, but we want to finalise the guest list now. Try and tailor as many of the prop builds around the guests as possible. Then that will allow us then to decide, well, actually, we've got the Wyatt family, so do we want to have the Wyatt family picture in the funhouse? I mean, we've got Earl Hebner. Do we want to have Earl Hebner with the winged eagle belt in the ring, sort of thing? So yeah, we're almost there with the prop builds, but once the guest list is nailed down, we can then revisit the prop builds, finalise that, and then we'll know exactly where the photos are going to be.
Nice.
It's crazy, so like when you said about that as well. With the you need to finalise the guests. It sounds like a busy couple of months for you, to be honest. So you got to get the prop builds finished as well.
Yeah, it is, and it's really good fun. It is a lot of fun, but you know, it's what we want from this. And I mean, anybody can have a picture with a wrestler. I mean, as long as you pay enough, anybody can have a picture with a wrestler. Yeah. What we always try and do with the Full of Wrestling is we try and have as many reunions, duo photos, something like Money Inc., something like Trish and Mickey, something like that, something like the Vince's Devils. I mean, we don't even think the Vince's Devils photo shoot's ever been done. We always want those sort of things, or the Wyatt family reunion in the fun house or in the Wyatt family house. We want people to walk away with a photo that you can't get anywhere else. That's what we want people to come to Full Wrestling for. Because yeah, you can go to a wrestling convention and have pictures with wrestlers. You've always been able to do that. That's not a new thing. What we want Full Wrestling to offer is something different, and for you to walk away with something you can't get elsewhere. And hopefully that's what we deliver on.
Yeah, no, straight out the gate, I'd say from the way you're sort of explaining the photo ops alone, it sounds like a unique experience to what's certainly to what we're familiar with. So yeah, I love the idea. I can see so many people. You know, I can already see the follow the buzzards for the Wyatt family. That exactly. Photo's gonna happen, isn't it?
and I imagine from someone who's attending, it can come across quite frustrating, because we're sort of 8 weeks out now, and people don't know exactly what's happening. But that in some way for us, that's the fun of it. In some ways, I mean, we would obviously 8 weeks away, we would like to have every single thing set in stone. But you know, just with everything that's happened in the last 2 years, that's not been able to happen. Hopefully it'll be worth it, especially if. I think we've got 3 more guests we want to announce now. 2 of them are nailed down, but there's then just the last one, and this last one's the big one. And I think it could be a really, I know full well it will go down very, very well with people. So hopefully we can get that one over the line as well.
I think I can hear your wallet crying there, Carl.
Weeping, if you will.
No, that's one thing. Like, it's been for me. I know, like, a lot of people like to be super organized, but I think, and apologies, Carl, because I haven't asked your opinion on this. But for me, like, the sort of the surprises and the guests that are cropping up and stuff, like, and the amount of times Carl's messaged and gone, like, you know, we've got this guest, I'm getting tickets. I'm like, okay, fair enough. But I think the surprises are good fun, to be fair.
Yeah, it's one of them, like, you know, as you said, but obviously some of the cancellations, stuff like that. I think some of the new guests that were announced were just, you know, more than made up for it. I mean, it did for me, because I luckily didn't have tickets anyway, but obviously that meant bad news for my wallet, because obviously Bray had to get a ticket for, Sting had to get a ticket for New Age Outlaws. So yeah, I think it's the lineup's shaping up really nice.
Yeah. And I can honestly say, as someone who we had Bray, someone we wanted, because obviously he's been one of the biggest names over the last couple of years. But we also had Bray Wyatt when he was just coming out as Bray Wyatt. So actually, the very first time Bray Wyatt won the title, we crazily they were in the UK 3 days later, and we booked them. We had an event called WWE Superstars in Manchester at Bowlers, which is a venue Andy owns. So we got really, really lucky with that. Now I was tasked to look after Bray Wyatt that day, and oh my God, they say never meet your heroes. The guy is just the warmest, kindest, nicest guy in the world. He's such a sweetheart, and he's just you know. So for anybody who's looking forward to meeting Bray Wyatt, I can honestly guarantee now he will not disappoint. He's an absolute legend of a man.
Yeah, I can't wait. I suppose as well, another question we've kind of got, which is kind of around that as well, as we've like us specifically have opted for the photo ops. But obviously you can get photo ops and autographs as well, can't you? I guess, what's your experience on both of the options and the benefits of each? Like, do you get a bit more one-on-one time with them when you get an autograph? Like, is the photos very much a, you know, smile and get out kind of thing? Like, how does it, because obviously you mentioned like the warmth of Bray, like are we going to get to speak to him a little bit in our photo op kind of thing?
Yeah, so it is because a lot more people opt for the photos. The photos are a lot busier, so generally the photos are a little bit more of a production line. Come in, say hello, shake their hand, click, smile, on your way, sort of thing. Whereas if you get an autograph, you probably get about a minute with them at the sort of stall. But you'll get to see them around the event. I mean, it's not. I have seen some conventions where they've had all the guests like behind like partitions and stuff. You'll be able to see all the guests. You know, if you stand in the middle of the floor and turn around, you know, do a sort of 360, you'll be able to see every single guest, you know, sat at their desk doing what they do. And obviously you'll have the Q&As with them as well. And, you know, the Q&As are in the wrestling ring, right in the center of the hall as well. And it's crazy. I remember I was trying to explain to someone, I said, oh, don't worry about it. I said, you'll see them. They'll just be knocking about. And someone went, oh yeah, of course they will. I was like, no, they literally will. I remember I barged into Chris Jericho at the last one. I was manning my stall and just turned around and literally just barged into him. And he was only, oh, sorry. You went, sorry, man. And it was only sort of like when he was like 3 foot past me, I was like, oh, that was Chris Jericho. That's who that was. Yeah. So, but it is, I mean, So yeah, you'll get to be. This is what the great fun of it is. You'll just get to be in and around the wrestles all weekend. But yeah, I mean, people often say, "What's the best thing to get?" I mean, if you want that personal experience, I'd suggest an autograph. But what you should also walk away, what you should also decide on is what do you actually want to walk away from the event with? Do you want that minute to have that conversation and talk to someone, and obviously walk away then with something signed, or would you like your memento to be a picture? Me personally, I'm more of a picture person. Yeah. I like that. I like that picture. I like to have all my pictures out of all the people I've met. It's a gentle reminder when I'm having a bad day at work that perhaps a crappy Monday morning is worth it in the long run. But I mean, what I would also say is I think at the first event we had 24 guests. I think we're probably aiming for 28, 29, 30 guests at this one. So if your wallet is permitting, if your wife is willing, or if your credit card is stretching far enough, opt for the platinum ticket, because the platinum ticket gives you an autograph and a picture with every single guest in the building. It also gives you access to some of the VIP stuff. There'll be a VIP meet and greets as part of the platinum package. You'll get a front row seat for the Q&As, and there's a few other things. So if it's possible, go for the platinum ticket, because that just means you get a bit of a free for all for the entire weekend. So that's my sales pitch.
Yeah. Don't do it to me. Don't do it to me. I'm there going, yes, yeah. Don't tempt me.
Love it. One thing I wanted to ask was, obviously it's a bit of a balancing act for yourselves when it comes to organising things. You've got a lot going on the event at the time. So for people like Carl and myself, who we've got, what are we at, 11 now, Carl, photo ops? So when it comes to like balancing the photo ops and the Q&As, I just wondered if you could give an idea about that work. So are we still going to be sort of, obviously we're going to have to be queuing up for photo ops at some point. Are we still going to be able to be sort of in earshot of a particular Q&A or anything along that line?
Yeah, definitely. So we'll have our. It's obviously a big long hall. It's one hall. So we purposely put the Q&As in the wrestling ring right in the middle, but we also project them onto the screens, so everybody in the building will be able to see. Everybody who's in the building will be able to see and hear the Q&As, no matter where they are, whether they're queued up for an autograph or whether they're waiting for a picture. But one of the great things about For Love of Wrestling as well is because how streamlined it is, you should never really have to queue.
All right, cool.
For a great deal of time. I mean,
no, obviously there'll always be. We're British. We love a good queue. There'll always be some level of queue.
But I've been at some conventions. I won't name names. WrestleCon, and people were sort of queuing up for an hour and a half, 2 hours. I was like, that's like a third of my day. I'm not doing that. It was for a great picture. It was for Trish and Lita picture, but I was just like, I can't be bothered doing that. I'm going to go and have a chat with Coco Beware instead. So I did that. that was much more fun. So yeah, so you should never really have to queue. But we're also going to have introducing a clash finder for this year. We're going to be trying at Aberdeen again. That's another one of my ideas, so I'll plug that. Which is basically it's something that I used to use. I used to go to a lot of festivals, and it's something that people used to produce for like Glastonbury and stuff like that, to make sure you didn't miss bands. And what you'll be able to do is be able to look at one document, and you'll be able to know where every single wrestler is at that exact moment in the entire convention, which is really, really useful. So you'll be able to go, oh, well, actually, let's go and do this now, because Trish's pictures are on in 10 minutes. Oh, and then we need to nip across to Mickey James, who's doing her Q&A. So you'll also be able to plan your entire day using the Clash Finder, which is really good. That should help. It should stop people from panicking that they need to be in certain places at certain times.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's going to be successful as well. But and this is where I say this again and again, when you are queuing for something, just say hello to the person in front of you or the person behind you, because that's one of the best things about For Love of Wrestling is anybody can talk to anybody. You've all got the same thing in common. This is one of the only times in your life that you'll literally be able to stand in a room with 5,000 people and know that every single one of you have got something in common.
Yeah.
So, take that opportunity to say hello to each other. Some people will be there on their own. Some people will be very nervous. And it gives people that bit of warmth and comfort.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. That obviously it's so different to just typical cons, isn't it? Because someone could be there to see, I don't know, because they're a Lord of the Rings fan. Someone's there for the wrestling fan. Just, that nothing in common. So absolutely. I think, obviously for us, as Anthony said, we've got a lot of people that we're that we're going to be meeting, but there's so many we just can't wait to meet. Obviously, we've been lucky to have guests on the show like Mickey James, Lanny Poffo, Georgia Smith, who we can't wait to see in person. We've got a special introduction for Lanny that he told us personally to say when we see him, so can't wait to just have that little bit of a joke with him. But who are you most looking forward to meeting yourself on the day?
I would love at some point over the weekend to sit down with Lanny and have a beer and talk about Randy.
Yes.
I'm hoping that I get to do that at some point over the weekend. I'll be crazily mega busy. But one of the things that I always get to I always walk away with something from these events, and normally it's something that I was completely not expecting. The example that we had the 80s and 90s festival a few weekends ago, and I didn't get to watch any bands. I got to watch like 10 minutes of the Venga Boys at the end because while we were just waiting to take people back to the hotels. But then I got to sit down and have a drink with the Rednecks, Cotton Eye Joe guys, and do you know what? Just the warmest, sweetest people who couldn't do enough for everybody. And you walk away with sort of like cool little memories like that. The Undertaker, someone I got to spend a little bit of time with in Dusseldorf when Andy put on an event over there for him. That was very cool. But we're looking forward to meeting. Probably say sort of 18-year-old me is very looking forward to meeting Trish Stratus and Torrie Wilson.
That's fair.
he's very proud of what I'm doing, and this year, and so. I mean, yeah, that's cool. SoCal Val, who I love, because again, speaking of Dusseldorf, she came to the Dusseldorf with us. She's an absolute love. So it'd be nice to see her. But yeah, I mean, if it could, anything over the weekend, probably at some point, hopefully, getting to sit down and have a chat with Lanny about himself and obviously Randy as well.
Yeah, he's literally the best guy. He's such a sweetheart. It's a ledge.
So, obviously, you've mentioned of the guests there, sort of for this event, who you'd like to see. Is there anyone still on your bucket list who you'd like to get, like a particular favourite that maybe for a future event that you'd love to get?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, obviously, sort of, it should come as no surprise that on a post-it note in mine, Andy's and Jason's, all our separate offices, names like Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold Steve Austin and people like Triple H. I mean, Triple H probably never happen, but Austin doesn't like traveling, but speaking of the devil, that's Jason. So yeah, and Austin and Hogan would be fantastic. But I'd like to see some of the older guys over as well. We've recently been banging names about like Barbarian and the Warlord and the Bushwhackers and some of those types of people that we'd just like to see over here as well. So there's nobody who I wouldn't like to see over here really. Keep them all coming. We'd like to get more reunions like the Hardy Boys. Maybe get the Hardy Boys and Lita over. Do a Team Extreme reunion. That'd be quite fun. Yeah. If we got the Undertaker back over. Now I always thought it was a great idea. But actually, all the people that were there on the Undertaker's debut night, so the Undertaker, Ted DiBiase, and then Rhythm and Blues. I always thought that would make like the greatest wrestling photo ever. But everyone went, when I mentioned it, someone went, "That's a terrible idea." I was like, "Oh no."
I mean, it's definitely a unique one, isn't it? You talk about doing things that others have never had. Why
not? And that's my thought. So yeah, and just doing keep doing fun stuff like that. People who are wrestling today, is there anybody you'd like to meet? I mean, we had Drew McIntyre over at the Superstars event. He was really cool. Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar would be, I'd love to get Brock Lesnar over to do an event as well. And people like, I don't know, we were talking about it yesterday, we went with Carl about people who perhaps aren't wrestlers per se, but your Mike Tysons or your Mr. T's, or people who've got a relationship to wrestling. Those type of people. Like to see them as well.
Absolutely. Awesome. I've always been kind of curious, how does it work from like a logistics standpoint? So like, do all the guests just arrive in the morning, then sit in the green room for a bit until like, it's their time to come out? Or are they literally just from the time they're just out on the floor walking around? Like,
you speak to the right person, because that's what I manage. I manage logistics. No, well, obviously, we obviously have them over here earlier in the week, and then we sort of we bring them all through, sort of from from wherever they're staying and bring them all into the floor, and then they're there most of the day. I mean, they obviously we give them an hour for lunch because we're kind. But I mean, the time sort of, especially the Saturday, the non-stop between photo shoots and autographs and Q&As. And what's fun as well is we try and put the guests who are sort of more matey with each other together, which sort of works really well. And we also make sure that all of the guests can see each other and they can all watch the Q&As themselves, which is really good when you sort of have people having banter. It's not so good when you've got Bret Hart sat in a wrestling ring slagging Eric Bischoff off, but then also just not acknowledging the fact that Eric Bischoff is sat over there while he's slagging him off and almost pointing at the same time at Eric Bischoff slagging him off, which was quite funny. But Eric Bischoff is an absolute pro, and water off a duck's back to him. But you know. It works well, and like when we had the last one, we spoke to wrestlers after, and it was a really good. I was doing a lot of the podcasting and stuff at the time, and I got 10 minutes with Eric Bischoff. I was so nervous because I was like, someone who's trying to do a little bit of media type stuff, sort of sitting down with Eric Bischoff, and he just couldn't have been kind, and he also couldn't have been more complimentary to not only the fans, because I just said, "Oh, sorry, we're just a little small island," and he went, "No." He said, "You know, the UK wrestling market is world renowned." He said, the fans over here are a little bit different. He said they're not as entitled as US fans. He said they always make us feel a little bit more welcome. They're always a bit more polite. They're all a bit more appreciative. So he said they absolutely love coming over to For Love of Wrestling. And obviously then when they all went back, I mean, what was great after the first one is like literally within a couple of days, we walked back into the office and there was, you know, a lot of really big names in the industry reaching out to sort of Jason and Andy because they wanted to be booked for the event, because word gets around very, very quickly around the wrestling world. I imagine they've all got WhatsApps and whatever about, getting to this person, they're really good guys, getting to this convention, they treat you really well. And of course, everybody likes to come over and have a good sort of trip around the beautiful city of Liverpool. They do, yeah. We just had our Liverpool Comic Con, and we had a lot of the guys from the Sons of Anarchy guys that they loved it, just being in Liverpool. The Karate Kid guys, they came over and they loved being in Liverpool as well. Ron Perlman from Hellboy and obviously Sons of Anarchy, he was a big fan of sort of being in Liverpool. So yeah, people just like being in and around the city as well. So it's just a really good fun weekend. And they've just announced that the Tyson Fury fights on the Saturday night. That For Love of Wrestling's on as well. So I might try and see if Kurt Angle wants to go for a beer and watch it. You know,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, is it going to be on in the after party? Will all be
yeah. I'm going. You don't show a boxing match in a room full of drunk people, do you? There'll be haymakers flying left, right, and centre.
Love it. So while we're talking about guests, and obviously I won't ask you to name any names, but I am curious: have you had any sort of really off the wall sort of demands when you've been booking a guest, like, you know, I want a bowl of blue M&Ms or something like that, you know, as part of the conditions of being there, or have you found most of them quite good and quite normal?
I mean, it's you sort of get used to it. I mean, you've got to sort of wear both pairs of shoes some point, you know. As if you're a celebrity agent, your job is to get as much as possible out of the people who's booking them. You know, your job is to try and get them gold-plated limousines, to stay in the nicest in private jets, to stay in the nicest hotels. But that's your job. Our job is to sort of mitigate that and go, no.
You're getting a Premier in.
Yeah, we're not going to stick you in a travel lodge with the crackheads, but then we're also not going to stick you in a, you know, in the Burj either. So yeah, so that's fun. But I mean, we deal with a lot of professional agents and a lot of professional guests. But so no, nothing ever weird and wonderful. Just, you know, you get to know the guests, and some of them are a lot of fun. Say that.
I can imagine.
So obviously we mentioned the after party. Then, you know, what do we have to look forward to at the after party? Is there going to be like anything planned in particular? Might we get any of the guests going? I think there was a few that went last time. Any funny stories from that?
Oh yeah, Party Marty went last time.
Party Marty
turned up last time, and I think he lost his shoes because When I interviewed him on the Sunday, he had no shoes on. So Party Marty was in effect last time. I think Bruce the Bob, I think maybe Scott Hall went last time as well. Maybe Kevin Nash, I'm not sure. But yeah, all the guests are invited. Victoria and also Val were asking me about the after party. So we invite all the guests. Some of them will go, some of them won't go. We had some of the guests turn up at the after party from at Liverpool convention. I mean, you always get a couple who go there, but the after party is literally just that. It's a party afterwards when everyone gets together, chills out for the evening, has a couple of drinks, dances the night away, and it's sort of a stone's throw from the event itself.
Nice. We're going to be there. Looking forward to it. Hopefully Victoria and that's there as well.
I knew you were going to say that, Carl. The minute you said Victoria, mate,
yeah. Get a booked on the pod.
So obviously you mentioned earlier on about we're getting a free live wrestling events with part of the tickets by Futureshock. Is there anything more you can tell us about that? Anything particular about the events, or what sort of matches we got or anything like that?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a number of different matches. There'll be some singles matches, some tag matches, and the Rumble. They did a sort of Rumble / Battle Royal last year, the one that Pete Dunne turned up in randomly. We've got a huge crowd pop. We're going to be looking to do that again, something similar, and I'm sure there will be a few surprises, and we'll hopefully get one or two of the guests involved with that show as well.
Oh, with any luck, yeah.
Can't wait. So, for anyone who can't make the event as well, are you going to be doing like a send-in service this time around so they can get stuff signed?
Yeah. So we always do a send-in service for all of our events. You can, if you want to send anything in, as long as you're happy to cover the postage, you can send belts, chairs. You can send your nan in if you want. We'll get her in. But if you want anything sent in, you just need to email merchandise. That's merchandise@monopolyevents.co.uk. Tell them exactly what you want signed, how many of them you want signed, who you want to sign it, and they will come back and be more than happy to give you a quote. And obviously, I'm sure if you listen to this podcast, you know where we are, but we're obviously on Facebook and Twitter under For Love of Wrestling. If you go search For the Love of Wrestling on Facebook, there's a group and a page. Don't worry, they're both ours. The group is everybody to chat in, and obviously the page is for us to sort of put out more of our stuff in there.
Awesome. Well, yeah, Jay, nice one. Thank you again for coming on the show. Obviously, we're super excited. Can't wait to meet so many legends, as well as everything else the event has got in store as well. So just a reminder once again to anyone listening or watching this, For the Love of Wrestling, Europe's biggest wrestling convention is less than 2 months away now, 23rd and 24th of April. So get yourself down there and we'll see you there. But Jay, thanks again for coming on the show.
No problem at all. As you say, guys, your entry ticket is 20 quid, and your entry ticket gets you a hell of a lot of stuff. It gets you access to the prop builds. It gets you access to every single Q&A. It gets you access to the exhibits. It gets you access to all the traders area. It gets you access to people like Georgia Smith, who will be happy to talk to you about a dad, and you'll see some of those, all that type of thing. So even if you're thinking to yourself, oh, God, I can't go down, I can't afford to go down and get a picture with Bray Wyatt, you can afford 20 quid. Just come down and spend the weekend with 5,000 people who think exactly the same as you. And I promise you, you will have a ball.
Unbelievable value. Yeah, cheers, mate. Thanks
awesome.
again.
Well, thank you very much, mate.
Have a good evening, gents. Thank you very much.
You too.
Bye.
Cheers.
Cheers, mate. Bye.